Hey guys, what's up? So I'm bored, and that means I have to do something to not be bored. And I can either A, eat food, which is what I usually do, B, play video games, which I find to be still boring because all video games are trash because companies stop putting effort into them, or C, build a mid-range gaming PC. So I'm going to build a mid-range gaming PC, and for the specs, basically I've got my motherboard right here. Yes, it's not in the right box, but that's because I don't have the box for this board. This is a X370, Asus Prime X370 board, I believe. This is what I was going to give away last month, but the CPU last second was like, I'm not going to work correctly. So we had to replace it with a 3600, but that's fine. And obviously, X370, we're using first gen Ryzen, so we're going to, that's not it. That's not it either. Here we go, a Ryzen 5 1600X. So like I said, this will definitely be like a mid-range gaming PC. Now, I was able to get it, and I'm building this PC almost to make sure it's like a test. I was able to get the CPU, I'm pretty sure it works every time. I think it might have been a one-time thing where it just wasn't working at one time. But like I said, I couldn't risk giving someone a broken CPU. So I might end up putting it in this month's giveaway PC. I don't know. The PC I'm building right now could be this month's giveaway PC. So we use that. Oh, we need RAM. So I do have a bunch of fancy RAM, like Trident Z Royal, a bunch of like Corsair Dominate, whatever, all this Platinum RGB crap. But this is PC that I think I might sell if it's not given away. So my choices are really G-Skill Fortis and this XPG, a data XPG memory that I have 32 gigs of. I think I'm going to use 16 gigs of this. It's silver. It matches the board kind of. It's kind of got like a white/silver vibe going on here. And the case we're using today is actually going to be the NZXT H510 White Edition. So I definitely think that this will match pretty well. Yeah, it definitely matches the board fine. As for a cooler, so normally I would use like a stock cooler for a build that I'm going to sell or just using for test, but this board doesn't even have a backplate on it. Now I have plenty of extra backplates, I could put one on, but I'm thinking just, 1600X, I don't have the stock cooler for that one, which is the taller. I have the Stealths and I have the RGB ones. I'm not going to use any of those, so I'm just going to put this Hyper 212 Black Edition on it, and that should be fine. Honestly, I don't even need a fan on it, really. That's a lie, I do. I lost my iFixit screwdriver again. I got a cup. I have a cup to put my screwdrivers in. And I'm like, this will fix my problem where I lose all my screwdrivers. And then I just don't put them in the cup. Because I'm not very smart. Now, I'm going to record this part, because this part's easy to record. I sit down in a chair, I talk to you guys about what I'm doing and how I lose all my screwdrivers, and I just build the main part of the PC and talk about the specs. I'm probably not going to record the entire build process, mostly because I've, as you noticed, been recording in 4K and with lavaliers and stuff, and it's just a pain to both edit in 4K the entire video, even though I have the PC powerful enough to do it. I didn't put any thermal paste on. I'm an idiot. If I had people who cared and watched my videos, there would already be 20 comments. After that, you forgot to put thermal paste on your CPU. Forget it. We'll just do I call it the drawing approach. Well, I just kind of draw. It looks like more than it is. Because I just draw a flat layer, then put some extra in the middle. Worst case scenario. A little bit of thermal paste on an AM4 socket. It's not going to kill you. Because I'm like 50% sure I can just pour water in there and fix it. Pretty sure I could. Now, LGA sockets, not entirely sure because the pins are so delicate. But I'm pretty sure on these AM4 sockets and PGA sockets that you could totally pour water in them. Don't take my advice. This is not like advice, but I'm just speculating. I might try it in the future if I get thermal paste in there. I'm pretty sure if it's obviously not plugged in and there's no electricity going through it, you can just get some fucking water in there. This is such an awkward angle to do screws at, but I'm usually standing. I prefer standing when building a PC, but the problem is my height and this. I'm not even tall. I'm not tall at all. But this desk is not tall either. It's meant for sitting at. You're supposed to sit at this desk. So I can't. It's like impossible to have the camera with me and the desk in frame without having the entire office in frame as well on the sides. And then people get mad because, oh, it's such a mess. I'm like, you try to store $10,000 worth of PC parts within a 15 by 8 room, okay? It's hard. Speaking of 15 by 8, this is the card we're using. Yes, I know this is the same card I showed in the giveaway video. Like I said, it'll be anything. This is why I'm saying this might end up being the giveaway PC. If we end up actually hitting 16k subs. I have a feeling we might not. But this is an RX 580, and it just, again, I don't know how I ended up like this, but everything kind of matches. It's black and silver, you know. This is a black and white card. It's the RX 580 4GB version, which I am making a video about 4 versus 8GB version, and the results are surprisingly shocking. And that they do basically the same. But that's the point. So this is basically our whole piece. Like, I could plug in a power supply and a drive, which we're using just one of these SSDs. The case has enough room, and when it does, especially in a PC I'm either selling or giving away, I'm going to put a SATA SSD. And also the power supply I'm using is not modular, so I have SATA cables whether I like it or not. Might as well use this SSD. That's the point. Let's get this in a case and built. I will talk to you guys when it's built. And that's really it. I mean, of course, we can put our fan and connect. It has our RGB headers on here, which is awesome. This is the point. Let's get this build done, and I'll be back with you in a second. Boom. This is it. This is what I've come up with. I have some more cable management to do because our power supply is non-modular. Don't forget. It's the power supply I actually stole from that iBuyPower pre-built I bought randomly. Out of boredom, and hopefully I can get it. I don't know. That would be a power supply I would sell. I would never give that away to someone. I don't trust them, but I trust it to sell, and that's a terrible thing to do. But you know, it looks alright. I haven't tested it yet. I'm about to test it. Let's get it plugged into a monitor. Let's put the one back here so you guys can maybe see. Long HDMI cable. This card has some of the most sag I've ever seen in my life because it has no structural integrity, that graphics card. Let's get it plugged in. Alright. Plugged in, ready to go. Can you even see that monitor in the back? You can. No, you can't. Yeah. Back there, that monitor. If it turns on, we got a PC. Did light turn on when the power supply's on? Light turn on with the power supply. PC turns on with the power supply. We got RGB. Yes. I'm so happy. We have our test NVMe SSD. That's what that connector is, the micro connector thing back down there. That's a NVMe drive with an adapter so that I can quickly slot it into a build. It has all my games on it. It has stuff like that. It's 512 gigs NVMe. Basically, it's just like a test drive so I can build a PC, slot it in, test it, and then put in, you know, like a SATA SSD after with just a blank install of Windows, which is what I plan on doing with this build, because I've got, like I said, I've got SATA cables. I have no choice but to have SATA cables. I might as well use them. I do have extra PCIe, but, you know. Are we going to turn on? Oop. I really hope I was right about the fact that this thing isn't broken. That might be a problem. Let's see, let me restart it. So, now here's where we go into a problem. The fact that it didn't just boot up into Windows right away, fully good, is a problem. I don't like that. Because that means if I were to sell this to someone right now, give this to someone, they would have the same thing. It doesn't boot up into Windows right away. And if that happens once, I either get a return or a guy asking me 1,000 questions. And, oh, see, now it boots up when I restarted. That's still worrying. New CPU installed. Please enter setup to configure. I'm going to do that, and we're going to see if this works. I want to see if this front panel works. So if you don't know, this motherboard, part of the reason I didn't give away last month is that this motherboard, the USB Type A front panel has bent pins in it, but seems to still work, which is extremely surprising. That means this motherboard is perfect for this case. It has a USB-C and a USB-A front panel, and they both work, which is surprising. Wow, that CPU voltage is way too high. So this motherboard is giving my CPU 1.46, almost 1.5 volts. That's been a problem with Ryzen for a little while, and I hope I can fix that with some tuning. Alright. I mean, the CPU is at 41 degrees, but I mean, it's a 1600X. I don't know why you're giving it 1.4 volts. No, 1.2. It's going up to 1.4. It's going from 1.2 to 1.4. And I have just no idea why. What's the frequency on this memory? This is 3000 megahertz. I can push this to 3000 megahertz. Yeah, CPU voltage is 1.3. I'm going to set a negative offset. And this is like, I've only very recently gotten to like voltage changing and modding and stuff like that and overclocking in that way. I've never changed the CPU voltage until recently. We're going to offset negative and offset of 0.2 volts. I mean, the CPU is saying it wants 1.3. I don't want to, I know. I'm going to do, no, 0.15. And let's get our RAM, we set our, where's the hell's RAM? It's usually under AI Tweaker. That should boot right away. If it does, our CPU temp should be better. It was at, remember, it was at, I didn't connect both fans. I'm an idiot. Can this go up and around? I don't think so. Now, I'm gonna, basically what I do is I'm gonna boot it like 50 times. And if it doesn't boot all 50 times first try, then I basically cannot sell this or give this away. Because although it might be, to me, fully working, I can, restart, play games on it and such. If I were to sell it or give it to somebody and it is not working, every single time that I turn it on, it doesn't boot up, it's a problem. Did I just unplug my RGB? I did. Alright, that's a freeze during boot. Hopefully we can get that fit. Hopefully that was just the RGB unplugging that totally just borked it. See, this was the kind of problems I was having last time when I was going to give this away. Hence why I switched to a 3600 and different motherboard. When I was going to give this board away and this CPU, I was running into this kind of problem. It boots or it doesn't boot, and then it's like, okay, well, it's clearly a functioning product, but it does things that just don't work at some points. And, I mean, I could sell it to somebody. Here's the thing. The only way I make money selling it, like if I were to make profit selling it, would be to somebody who doesn't know how to build PCs, doesn't really know about PCs, but wants a functioning PC that works from somebody who knows how to build one. It's freezing there every time. And in order to do that, it needs to work every time. It needs to be fully functional, no stability issues, done. If I want to sell it as CPU, everything works, but it has some stability issues, could be fixed, I have to sell it to somebody who knows about computers. Meaning they're not going to spend full price on all this stuff. They're not, they're not paying pre-built price for, parts that are put together. And that's where my problem comes in. You know what? I'm going to set CPU voltage to auto and let it just do its own thing. There we go. Advanced AI Tweaker. There we go. I'm setting CPU voltage to auto. I'll leave my RAM at 2933. This is 3000 megahertz RAM. CL16. It's pretty bad timing, but should work fine. 1.35 volts. So voltage set to auto. I wonder, though, if this board is just melting this CPU. This is such a dumb thing. Because, by all accounts, there's no reason this shouldn't work. Though I'm thinking it's a board thing. And if this board is, it's booting. If it's a board thing, I would rather it's preparing automatic repair. On what? And it froze. If it's a board thing, this case will, I can still build in it, but this was the perfect board. I don't need it. It's got one USB-A, one USB-C, like this stupid case wants. But, I don't, I'll throw it away. Fine. If it's a CPU thing, that's a little annoying, because X370 is practically useless now. Alright guys, so I was able to find the problem with our machine. And it turns out that, good thing is, thankfully, the RAM is fine. Now, what was happening was it kept freezing every time I would boot into Windows. Basically, Windows was basically freezing. And usually when it just freezes like that, loading screen just pauses, it's a RAM issue. Now, I know this RAM is good. This is tested good RAM. But this board has had issues with RAM multiple times. And I figured out the issue. I always use slots 2 and 4, because that's the recommended. Use the lighter colored slots usually. Here they are gray. slots 2 and 4 for memory. To get dual channel is usually what's recommended when you have 2 DIMMs. But in the BIOS, there was a couple things I noticed. So at one time when I had them in slots 2 and 4, it came up that I only had 8 gigs of memory, despite the fact I had 16. Now, in the BIOS, it recognized that that 2 slots had 8 gigs apiece in them, but it was adding 8 plus 8 to 8, which doesn't make any sense. So that's when I realized slot 2, the second RAM slot on this board, is borked. In some way, it is broken. It does not work. It might be a couple of the pins just aren't there, some of the contacts just aren't working. I don't know. It might even be the CPU being stupid, but all I know is slot 2 on this board right now is not working. I've had it boot every single time when I've switched the RAM to slots 1 and 3, which should be absolutely fine. So basically how I figured it out is it looks like the RAM is telling the system, hey, I'm 8 gigs in this slot. But when the system tries to access, so when it gets to Windows and Windows is like, okay, 16 gigs, let me access the first stick, it goes, no, I'm good, I'm just gonna not do that, and it just doesn't work, and it freezes. So slot 2 is broken, but otherwise this PC is fine. Slots 1 and 3, 16 gigs of RAM, 1600X, we're good. So that's really it. I might do a follow-up video with gaming tests. I always say I'm going to do it, and then I don't because it's hard, and I don't have a lot of room in this office, clearly. But that's the point. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys come enjoy this little build video where I build a random PC because I'm bored. And that's really it. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.